Welcome everybody. This is John Capone, the CEO of J7 Communications. And today my guest is Guy Blatton, the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping, and we're discussing the impact the pandemic has had on global shipping. Blatton, welcome to the J7 live stream conversation. I wanted to kind of begin by asking you, currently, what are the big campaign issues for the International Chamber of Shipping, and just give us a quick update about yourself and the organization as well generally.
So thanks. I'll maybe just start a little bit about the ICS. We're a network of national ship owning associations across the globe who come under, are part of members of the International Chamber of Shipping, and collectively we represent about 80+% of the world's merchant fleet. So we do believe we are the voice for ship owners around the world. So that's a little bit about ICS, and we particularly represent ship owners at the international fora like the International Maritime Organization, the International Labour Organization, and other UN agencies, including, of course, things like topical now the World Health Organization as well. So we make sure that the needs of the industry are heard by those who are making the regulated decisions going forward. So that's a little bit about what we do. In terms of campaigning, actually, it's any number of things. Clearly, crew change is still a major issue, and has been for over a year now, actually. It's, although things have improved in recent months in terms of ship owners and managers and others going to all sorts of extraordinary lengths to be able to do crew changes, it's still very difficult, and there's still hundreds of thousands impacted by this. And we're worried, of course, with these new variants and countries shutting down their borders again, we're going to go backwards, which will be really a retrograde step. So we're lobbying very hard for countries to really classify seafarers as key workers, and we've had good progress, the United Nations resolutions and other resolutions as well, but we need more countries to do so and recognise the important nature of seafarers.
So on that point, because we met just at the end of last year, and this thing about classifying ship workers as key workers, in terms of vaccinations, what has happened there? Have countries now prioritized
backwards, which will be really a retrograde step? So we're lobbying very hard for countries to really classify seafarers as key workers, and we've had good progress, the United Nations resolutions and other resolutions as well, but we need more countries to do so and recognise the important nature of seafarers.
So on that point, because we met just at the end of last year, and this thing about classifying ship workers as key workers, in terms of vaccinations, what has happened there? Have countries now prioritized ship workers in terms of vaccinations, or what's happening there?
That's a really good point, John. I mean, that's our next segment of our campaign, really, is to get seafarers on the priority list of vaccinations, and that's it's ongoing. Countries have set up their own priority lists. For example, in the UK, it's done on age basis. There's nobody given priority to any one occupation unless you're frontline health workers. And there are some countries like Singapore who vaccinated their frontline maritime people, which is good. But we really do need to make the case very loudly and very clearly for seafarers, particularly from seafarers drawn from countries which perhaps are more developing status, so who are just not going to get the same access to vaccines as those in the developed world have. If you look at Europe, if you look at the UK, if you look at America, they've ordered far more doses than their populations need. So we know everyone will get vaccinated. But if you take the example of the Philippines, there's only enough vaccines ordered for 1 out of every 100 people, so 1% of the population. So we have to lobby really hard as an industry to make sure that ideally we can get hold of some stock of vaccines ourselves, maybe some sort of vaccine hubs, and we're in discussions about that, and actually vaccinate our seafarers ourselves. It's so important. And I think what I'm really concerned about, as well as getting to them priority for vaccines, if, as we get into the year, countries start introducing vaccine passports, i.e. you can't travel to that country unless you've had a vaccine, that's really going to make our life difficult. So it's very important we absolutely bait the drum on that basis as well.
So, in terms of the ship owners themselves, are they now trying to find solutions to source vaccines so they can, sort of administer that to their crews, or is that still sort of, down to the governments? Is that still down to an agreement by the member, like, the governments themselves? Are the ship owners not stepping up and saying, well, look, if you're not prioritizing ship workers, should we start doing that? Is that not happening yet?
I mean, we would really love to. There's no doubt about it. If we could get hold of vaccine to buy, I have no doubt that I've yet to meet a ship owner who wouldn't step into a plate on this one. At the moment, all vaccines have to go to a country. They're controlled by countries. And then what we're doing now is a lot of work to try and change that a little bit, to make a special case for seafarers, because they cross international borders as part of their job. Many of them away from home for 9 months and would not be included in any national programme if there was one, because they just miss it. So I think we've got a strong case about doing that. And ideally, we would like to get hold of some vaccines, if we can, either through the surplus that countries have when they've finished that, or our own supply direct. And we're quite prepared to work and set up and to get that done, and through perhaps places around the world where we could do vaccinations easily, we could perhaps work on that basis. So it's early days, huge amount of work. We recognise we're not going to get them tomorrow or the next day, but we are working incredibly hard across the international organisations, across the ship owners themselves, and reaching out to vaccine manufacturers, and also reaching out to programs like COVAX and Gavi to make the case for seafarers. It's a never-ending thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some reports about the cost of shipping going up, and there's been delays at ports because of some of it to do with the pandemic. Is that something that you're beginning to hear and see more about, the rising costs of shipping? Down to the different changes that are going on globally in the economy. Is that a direct pandemic start?
Well, I think it depends on which sector you're in, of course. I mean, some sectors like the container sector have had a very good year, actually, in terms of the rates, and I think every sector's had ups and downs in terms of that. I think the cost of shipping, clearly, the cost of doing crew changes is risen massively as a result of this pandemic, hugely. And I think there's another fear as well, is that because seafarers have had extended tours of duty, their appetite to coming back to sea after they do get home, we're worried about that side of it, and will that cause its own problems as well in terms of supply and being able to man the ship. So all these things are interlinked, really.
Right. And just a final question I just wanted to tap your brain on is, in terms of the dreaded Brexit and us, the UK now having left the EU, have you seen any material changes in shipping coming in, and freights, or going in and out of the UK because of us leaving the EU?
I have heard anecdotal evidence that I think the cost of shipping a container to the UK has gone up compared to the cost of shipping a container to Europe. I need to look at the hard facts. I think Brexit is part of a whole issue about protectionism, about trade barriers, about tariffs and the like. And actually, the International Chamber of Shipping, in conjunction with the Harvard University Business School, Kennedy Business School, is launching a report actually next Wednesday the 24th, which looks at the whole issue of trade tariffs. And at the moment, since, according to the United Nations Commission for Trade and Development, since 2009, $1.7 trillion of extra costs have been loaded onto shipping, through shipping goods, not just ships and the like, but through tariffs, barriers that have been imposed. So we're making the case very strongly that actually you can increase GDP of every country quite significantly if you reduce your tariffs and your barriers.
Absolutely.
So it's counterintuitive, really, to people do it for protectionism reasons, to protect jobs, but actually we need to advocate. I think our industry needs to advocate for free trade, because
we need free trade. Exactly, that's it.
We've got evidence to show that actually that increases wealth and lifts people out of poverty.
And also, just before we close, can you just give our viewers kind of an idea of what the ICS will be doing this year? Are there any? I mean, if God willing, we see the lockdown gone, and we're trying to get back to normal inverted commas business. Is there any events or any webinars, anything that you're doing that people can maybe sign up to?
So that's that, Sean. Yeah, we obviously we're all a bit online at the moment. We're online here doing this interview. That's just an example. So every 2 weeks we have a leadership insight series, and we bring together leaders from inside and outside of the industry to talk about to the various issues. And actually, a really good one next Wednesday, which is about trade, which people can get more details on our website www.ics-shipping.org.
Oh, that's it. There it is. Okay, I'll put it up anyway. I'll put it up after. Don't worry about it.
It's our 100th anniversary this year as well. So in 1921, the ICS was formed. So we're hoping in the second half of the year to put some physical events together as well to make notice. But in terms of what else the ICS is doing, greenhouse gas reduction, carbon reduction is massive. Huge meetings taking place this year. Huge pressure, I think, on societies to build back better after the COVID, and I think there will be a green feel to that, and shipping is certainly not immune to that. So
carbon neutral shipping, that's
it, carbon neutral shipping, and how do we get there?
That's the thing.